founder and CEO of Left Field Labs.
And I'm Justin Lewis. I'm the chair of the Constellation network inside Stagwell and was the co-founder of the digital agency Instrument. So Sarah, Left Field Labs, new to Stagwell, super exciting, been with us a little bit. You guys are on a mission, to create connected experiences that enhance humanity's relationship with technology, brands, and each other. Love you to unpack that and really sort of talk about what that means to you guys.
Yeah, well, I think that, we're not strangers to design thinking, and we really apply that to a human-first model. We really want to make sure that all of the experiences that we build, at the end of the day, there's a real-world value, and it benefits our lives. These are people that we want to connect with, and we want to build experiences that have a meaningful relationship between the brand and the end audience, and that's really what we strive to create.
Where does that come from for you guys? I mean, I think we all know a little bit of the history of technology and maybe just the fact that a lot of tech companies seem to, for a long time, sort of maybe build technology for technology's sake, and we sort of lost the human element in there. So, I mean.
Yeah, I love that you ask it, because that was one of the reasons I started the company. Was I saw everyone looking at technology as the be-all, end-all. And it's the tool in the toolbox that gets us to a solution that has a successful output. It's not the thing that itself is what we're creating. We use it wisely, and we use it to really generate and elicit, hopefully, a meaningful response. And I think it comes from that place of understanding that technology should be really integral, but not the only thing. I think I'm really surprised that brands often miss the mark on that.
Yeah.
And the tech for tech's sake, it's so tempting to do. And we all are, I think, predisposed to go for that, ooh, shiny, it's trending.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that here. And it happens every year. There's a whiplash effect, but we really have to think about how it integrates with everything else, and how does it ultimately serve the human needs.
Yeah.
So I think that's the piece that we come from, and that deeper understanding. I think that's really created the more successful outputs for us. Happy clients, because
totally.
Good metrics, good results.
Happy consumers, happy clients.
Exactly.
And, I will go on the record and say I think it's one of the things that we were most excited about Left Field Labs in, from just an acquisition standpoint, is I think it's hard to find companies that have like great depth of knowledge of technology that really have like sort of a mission and a mantra to put the consumer at the center, and to really find a way to sort of do right by people and do good. Because I think we all know that statistically, here we are in like 2024, and not every person is happy with where technology is. Not everybody believes that it's enhanced their lives in a positive way. And so I think it really takes sort of a new reimagination of digital and the internet to think about, like, okay, how do we put the consumer back at the center?
Absolutely. And I think it takes a little bit of a heart-led approach as well. And that's the humanity of it too. How do we merge those two halves? Because that's really where we get a whole experience. It's really meaningful for people.
Yeah, that's great. So with so much happening in technology, AR, VR, AI, Web3, how does Left Field Labs help brands figure out where they need to focus and move forward, to succeed?
So I think, speaking a little bit about that predisposition that brands and marketers have to want to just run for the shiny new thing that's talked about last year, Web3, this year, AI, we really want to make sure that we're helping to guide those conversations and helping brands discern what is and is not applicable. And I think it's really good for brands to have a perspective and a strategy, but it doesn't mean everyone needs to be an early adopter.
Yeah,
just because it exists doesn't mean that it needs to be on your checklist of things to build. And it's so important that we have those conversations, and then we get strategic and we think about what's the best combination here of these tools and why. Does it deliver an experience that otherwise you wouldn't be able to relate in such a meaningful way?
Totally.
And that's what's so exciting too. I see the work that we do is, being able to adjust these knobs, these dials in such nuanced, fine-tuned ways that a lot of people overlook the importance of that. We're getting to really look at across ecosystems, across these different tools and implementations of, and that gets very exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. I do think it's funny having, you've been in this game as long as I have, and being a part of technology, it's hard to watch sometimes year in and year out. Sort of the masses chase down a piece of technology that I think when you're really well informed in this, you sort of know, well, that might not be totally applicable, or that might not be the best use case for it. So
Exactly.
I think, playing that trusted advisor role with clients and really helping to sort of navigate like, hey, what's a good use of this technology is such an important job.
Exactly. And there are some technologies that I think really do play a pretty critical role for most brands, and AI being one.
Yeah.
But in what instances? And how do we actually build this in a way that it enhances a product or service to a benefit? And I think those are the layers that we're really interested in diving deeper and exploring.
Yeah, that's exciting. So what do you anticipate as the biggest challenges for brands though in 2024? I mean, I think as we've really gone through multiple years now of pretty massive change in the market, massive change in society and our relationship with brands and with consumables even. So, I mean, what do you think? What are your predictions for this year?
Okay, so I think bigger challenges will be, not just rushing to implement something because we think we need to, but to really pump the brakes a little bit and to be discerning. I think it's also to simultaneously be fast. We are moving faster than ever before. Sure. I mean, this is crazy speed that we're moving, and this year is going to be even faster. Big tech is barely able to keep up.
Yes.
And to do that simultaneously while building these things with trust and privacy and being compliant, that's going to be one of the bigger challenges. I think it's also a matter of how do we be leaders? How do we be the models for others to follow? Those brands are going to just do so well. And if we can help guide and shape those conversations, that's great. That's what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
But it's a big challenge. It means a lot of focus and effort and doing it really, really well. Asking ourselves, is this actually an effective use?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is very fascinating right now that, the speed of evolution of AI in particular is growing faster as a technology base than probably anything we've seen before. And I think we probably are not necessarily pausing and asking ourselves the questions that we said we would.
Exactly.
Along the way. And I think we learned a lot from the inception of the internet and the inception of mobile that we probably should be applying to, the utilization of AI. So
and I think challenges with that. I mean, we're now watching how these legal challenges are unfolding with OpenAI and the New York Times. There's a lot there that is more Wild West than I think any other moment in time as we all figure this out. And, I think that it's going to take a lot of discernment, continuing to really practice, for privacy, data privacy, a big challenge for all of us, and for consumers to also know what they're, signing up for and what these experiences are about. So that's, it takes a lot of effort and energy, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, for sure. Conversely, I guess, what do you think the biggest opportunities are for brands? I mean, just what are you really excited about, and what are the things that you are excited to lead clients to?
Yeah, being here at CES is really interesting. I see so much in the hardware space and a little underwhelming in the software space, a little underwhelming in the connective tissue. There's so many great advancements. There's wearables for gesture control. What are the implications for your headset, for navigating in a headset space and XR? And I just think those are such great opportunities for us all to be thinking about what real world experiences we get to create. How do we connect the dots? And how do we actually, all of these amazing tech tools that we have at our disposal, how do we start to think about real world application? And I think that's going to be a really big opportunity for brands, for marketers to unpack a little bit more. And I think also leveraging AI, it continues to be an enhancement to products and services as part of ecosystems, and not the be all end all, and not thinking of it as a siloed division or component, but really connected to ecosystems.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I mean, one of the things that Left Field Labs is, does so well is I feel like you guys design and build UI that is as good or almost better than the product it lives in at times. And I think it's such a, I mean, to me, that is what the experience is. I mean, oftentimes now, like the UI, the interaction model is the product experience. And so I think you all do that, you know, at the highest level, and it really enhances the physical product. And it's like the interface that the human gets to spend time with, like is the interaction. So.
And that is ultimately, the human interface that we relate to is that software experience. And there's such opportunity for that. As I look around the room and I see everything that we've deployed this year and these big reveals.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a very big opportunity for us all.
Yeah, that's really great. 2023 saw the rise in implementation of AI. We talked about this a little bit, but you know, what do you predict that like will be a new trend in 24?
Ooh, I mean, I keep going back to privacy, security. We're going to need to really have frameworks internally. I think organizations are going to need to establish best practices. What we saw last year was a lot of brands say, AI is too new. We don't know enough yet about it. We're just not going to do anything yet. We're going to wait to see. Brands can't do that anymore.
I know.
They're you know, survival depends on it. The relevancy depends on it. Competition, the brands that can do AI implementation and really take advantage of these cross ecosystems do it really well. They're going to win. They're going to set the stage for how to do this. And I think we're going to see that a lot this year. And you know, I'm personally really interested in the privacy concerns. How we best bridge, you know, compliance, internal best practices. We're starting to work with our own clients around building those frameworks so that they have a set of blueprints that everyone on the team understands how to harness these tools in a responsible way, an ethical way. You know? And that's not always a conversation that's at the forefront of marketers, you know, minds. And I want us to be thinking about that. That's part of our social responsibility. And so if that's a trend this year, that we're more conscious of that and we're generating those conversations and developing solutions with that in mind, that also informs the LLMs in many ways. So I'd like to see that as a trend this year.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I think there needs to be a circular relationship between, you know, control, constraint, government, you know, and really thinking about like, what does this emerging technology look like and how do we inform it so it creates a platform for like social good and net benefit. And I think we're at a place now where dealing with the unintended consequences for things that we could have anticipated can't be acceptable. I think social media sometimes is such a good example of like, there's very big unintended consequences that have come with it that I think we actually could have imagined better and held some sense of responsibility for. So.
There's such tremendous power right now in brands' hands at really setting the stage for how social structure and communities operate. And I think it informs public policy decision makers and governments. And never really before in human history have we seen this. And it's a pretty wild time. So I think that responsibility really does need to be shepherded, and I'm interested to see how we can be arbiters of that.
I totally agree. So you've walked the floor, you've kind of cruised around and seen a bunch of things. Like, do you just have a hit list of favorites or things that you've seen that were actually big or small, intriguing?
Well, I think like the biggest wow for most everyone has been the see-through television. That's been a huge hit. Let's see, I do like, you know, the gesture-controlled wristband. That's a big aha moment. We're seeing so many things for health this year that I'm really interested in. Mental health and wellness. We're seeing a lot of pet care, wearables. There are, when you start to think about also, you know, in the robotics, which is underserved a little bit at CES, but the advancements here are starting to get me thinking about what that implies for senior care with our aging baby boomer population, for example. So I'm starting to see a lot that has real world benefit and application that I don't think we've been close to before. Automotive has been really big this year as well. So
for sure,
there's a lot of excitement about how all of these things next gen, how do they all work together? And, I think we're also coming from, the world of IoT in the past and now AI. So how do all of these rather kind of disparate hardware systems start to communicate with one another? And that's an area that I don't think many people have really tapped into or begun to explore.
Yes.
This may also go back to the opportunity that we have for 2024 and for brands looking ahead.
I think it's one of the things I'm the most interested in right now is we have this platform of emerging technology that's really exciting in generative AI and in metaverse and stuff. But when it gets really fascinating and like really exciting to me is when those mature at a level where you can start to stitch them together into like true ecosystems where it's not just a single piece of AI, but it's AI that's making decisions predicated on other output from AI.
Exactly.
And it's the kind of chaining of things together that is going to allow us to transform a whole industry as opposed to just performing an action differently.
I couldn't agree more. And I love how you put that too, because it plays a role. And where does a human also play the role? And I think that's an exciting part that's also uncharted. Us defining, the human input, AI, culling all of the data, and then, perhaps providing the top recommendations based on that. And then where does a human then make that final decision? That's really fascinating to me. I think where we think also about generative AI for personalization and the customization. That's where healthcare has such an area for advancement now that we have more power as individuals than we ever have with all these sensors. And do we need doctors anymore?
For sure.
It's a really interesting time. So
I'm picking up that we need a healthcare client.
We need a healthcare client, if you know anybody.
Absolutely. No, I do. I get really excited. Healthcare, I think in particular, has such a massive opportunity for, pretty quick imagination, both at like the macro level, thinking about like really big institutionalized change, but also at the micro level, like individual care, mental health benefits, things that both benefit like the society as a whole, but like also the individual.
Exactly.
So I think, that's a really exciting space. If you're out there listening to this, we're all in on healthcare. And,
absolutely. That's right. So, this has been such an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for spending the time.
Yeah, we're excited for what 2024 will hold.
Awesome. Thank you.